Has anybody in the audience ever been called a Karen? Or is there anybody in the audience whose name is actually Karen? Because if there is, I apologize in advance. But to those of you who have been called Karen, I feel your pain because I know the struggle is real. In 2021, I moved into a small apartment complex in North Dallas, and I was so excited because this was my first place. I'd done a whole bunch of research. I knew it was perfect, and quite frankly, I couldn't wait to call this place home. So when the time came to move in, I was handed a lease that I kind of skimmed through and might have signed here or there, but I didn't really read a whole lot of it, and I figured, why bother? I've done my research. I know this place is perfect. What's the worst that could happen? And for a few months, the place was perfect. Everything went without issue. But about 6 months later, all of that changed. And in a matter of days, suddenly the place that I was so excited to call home a few months ago became a place that I dreaded going home to every night. It started when the lights went out and didn't come back on. And then as the temperature started to rise, the AC went out. And then the hot water went out, and then eventually all the water went out. Now, at some point during this process, the apartment complex doors also became unlocked, and so at nighttime, the complex became home to a group of rather unscrupulous characters. Maintenance requests were not being answered, and so I decided it was probably time to break out that lease and figure out what my options were. Now, to my shock, I learned that I had signed a document that told the apartment complex I wasn't gonna leave unless I paid them a whole lot of money. What I also learned was that I had signed a document that gave the apartment complex the right to neglect making ordinary repairs unless there was a life or death situation going on. Now, it was 85 degrees in my apartment and I knew something needed to change. I couldn't afford the penalties of moving out, and so I decided to start calling the city of Dallas. I called the city of Dallas almost every day, and then I started calling the corporate office of the apartment complex. Now, needless to say, that didn't go over well with them. But after about 2 or 3 weeks of doing that, eventually I came home from work one day and found a note taped to my door. The note contained a letter from an attorney which politely informed me that I was free to leave whenever I wanted without penalty, provided I stopped harassing them. Now, I was out of the apartment 2 weeks to the day from receiving that letter, and I walked away with 2 very important lessons learned. The first is the absolute importance of reading every single document that I sign. That was a mistake that I made once that I don't plan on making again. The second lesson that I learned walking away from that place was the importance of painful and consistent self-advocacy. Now, while some people like my friend Jared over here might have called me a Karen during this whole interaction, what I learned was that sometimes I need to be a Karen. And standing up for myself in the way that I did allowed me to get out of a situation which I thought there was no other escape from.